Okay, we are recording. Greetings and welcome to Covenant Calendar Club. We are so glad that you are here, and we pray that you will be richly blessed by the Torah and as it comes out of the mouth of our instructors this evening. We want to give you a big shout out and say, shall we everybody? Shalom, hello.
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 Hello. Nice to have you.
Hallelujah.
Hi.
And once again, we are glad that you are here. And if you would like to participate in the discussion after the teaching, you can join Covenant Calendar Club by going to studythecalendar.com, and you can connect with us there. And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and turn the screen over to Tim and Jeanette.
Thank you, Mario. I think Charlene needs to have something to say.
Okay.
Charlene, go ahead.
Well, maybe while Tim's getting ready with his screen share, I can just do this. Tonight we're going to be looking at some counterfeit teachings for the count to Shavuot or Pentecost. And we had very good intentions, everyone, to keep this a really short, nice little PowerPoint so we could just all have fun at maybe 55 slides. But it grew to 75, and just as of yesterday, there was another boomerang that came to us, Libby. I need to thank her if she's here. She sent some information. I went, oh my, we've got to include this. So tonight, buckle your seatbelts because it's jam-packed. Now, for those of you that have not had a chance to look at the study that we recommended for Exodus 12 to 16 and on to 20 from the very first study that we did, there is some review in this one. If you did do the review, you'll be able to breeze through tonight. So we're just going to get started. Just hang on to your questions. Put the slide numbers down. They all have slides, and I hope you enjoy it because there are surprises here that we were not expecting. So Tim, he's the speaker tonight. I might jump in and help him a little bit, but we are excited tonight to give you part 4 of the Song of Joshua's Sickle.
Thank you, Charlene. You can hear me okay?
Yes, indeed.
Thank you, Mario. Yes, we are excited about this study. This has got some surprises, like Charlene said. It's surprised me big time. In the one particular spot, you're going to be seeing that. This is what you call an absolute team effort, and most of that team was Charlene. She has done an incredible amount of work on this to get this thing all together. So I must thank her for all the work that she has done. Okay. The Song of Joshua's Sickle. The sickle is an incredibly important tool. The timing that goes with this sickle is paramount to understand for the feasts. Joshua's testimony in the scriptures is so incredibly important. It has so much information on the calendar. It's absolutely incredible. And I really appreciate the book of Joshua. Exposing the counterfeit sickle. As with everything that Yahuwah has, Ha-Satan wants to make a counterfeit. I was just reading more on the rainbow this morning, the rainbow of Noah, when the covenant that Yahuwah gave to Noah. He gave us a rainbow. He says it's his sign. And look at what has happened today with the colors of the rainbow. We know what group of people uses the colors of the rainbow and claim it as theirs. It's another counterfeit. And it's just like the sickle. There's counterfeit sickles. So whose Shavuot connection does this counterfeit sickle lead to? Covenant calendar studies reveal profound secrets. Proverbs 25:2. It is the glory of Yahuwah to conceal a thing, but the honor of kings is to search out a matter. What is the secret to detecting a counterfeit? A truth must be found first. Let's read Mark 4:22-23. For there is nothing hid which shall not be manifested, neither was anything kept secret, but that it should come abroad. If any man have ears to hear, let him hear. And I'm just going to repeat that one line. Neither was anything kept secret. And I have heard so many times that we have to go to different books to learn about the calendar because the calendar isn't spoken about much in the scriptures. There's nothing farther from the truth. Yahuwah has told us nothing has been kept in secret. Everything that we need to know in the scriptures is there, including calendar. It's there for those that want to dig in and study hard. Does it take time? Yes, it takes some dedication to dig in. Today's study will reveal some interesting secrets for our ears to hear. Mapping the review discussion topics. If you look in the left-hand column, you'll see review, new review. There's lots of reviews today. These reviews are very, very important. We are setting the stage, if you will, for future studies coming up. These reviews are very pertinent to our topic today. We need to go over these. The first one is going to be a principle of a day and or a date. Two different items, different definitions. Very important to know the differences. The second one, I am hearing some noises on the recording here. New principle of locked and unlocked calendars. If you don't understand the difference between a locked and unlocked calendars, we're going to be looking at that very briefly. The Enoch calendar is a locked calendar. That means that the feast days are all on the exact same day of the year, every year. That is a locked calendar. I'm going to have some review on the wheat versus the barley, just a very, very quick review. Joshua versus Enoch on the Omer count. Wheat or barley, very, very profound. Then we're going to look at the lunar Sabbath and the placement of the spring festivals. And another new one is going to be a bunny trail number 2, the lunar Sabbath connection to Lag BaOmer. And more review on Exodus 12, Passover, Exodus 16 to quail to manna, and going to Exodus 19 to Mt Sinai. The new information, again, is on bunny trail number 3. And the question is the manna second month in the spring or the fall? Yes, we have had questions on this about people declaring the manna and the quail came in the fall. So we're going to be looking at this and determine, I think we'll be able to determine quite clearly that the manna and the quail were in the second month in the springtime. And another one here coming up, bunny trail number 4, the counterfeit Pentecost count. 49 days plus 1 day or another 50 days. What is it? Have you heard of the double count to Pentecost or Shavuot? Let's look at it. Let's delineate it from the scriptures first, and then we'll look at it and see where it leads to. Next one here is new. It's Hebrew reveals a covenant calendar secret for the Omer count. And this is going to be an eye-opener. And the last one is the summary for the counterfeit Pentecost count of how many days? The summary. Where does this lead to? Who does it honor? And should we be a part of it, or should we reject it? I think it's going to be very, very clear by the end of this study. There is a striking difference between counterfeit calendars and Joshua's calendar count. It's the difference between a day and or a date. Again, very different identities. A day and or a date are usually not the same. And here's a random example. The 15th date of the first month is not always on the 4th day or cycle, like in this example. And I know we don't observe birthdays, but I do thank Yahuwah for another year on that day. But our birthdays are not always on the same cycle of the week. They fluctuate back and forth. And this is the same as in the calendar. The days and the dates fluctuate. A day and or a date for calendar studies is a principle comparable to a lock. This principle will either lock a calendar or it will unlock a calendar. What does that mean? Well, you're going to see. The sickle will harvest the wheat wave sheaf. Only wheat can be ground to fine flour for the altar. Barley was only used in judgment of an adulterous woman. Joshua's Omer count. Here's Joshua's first month. We see that the Passover was on the seventh day Sabbath, and that the wave sheaf on the left side of that first month was on the 15th, on the first day after the seventh day Sabbath. And then we go on to the right, we see Joshua's third month. Shavuot was on the fourth cycle or fourth day of the month, and the first day after the seventh day Sabbath. That is the 50th count of the Omer. Note that number 4 for future reference. And here we see the completed weeks, who commanded that we must have 7 completed weeks for the Omer count. This is what it looks like in Joshua's year that he entered into Canaan. According to the Torah statutes from Leviticus and Deuteronomy, Joshua has fulfilled every requirement. Note, the Torah wave sheaf and Shavuot will fluctuate on different dates of the month. This specific year, it was on the 4th of the 3rd month. Let's look at Enoch's Omer count. Here we see that Enoch has Passover on the 3rd cycle of the week. This is locked on his fixed calendar. Every year he puts Passover on the 3rd cycle of the week. This is not scriptural. We have examples of Passover being on different cycles of the week throughout the scriptures, yet Enoch claims it is always on the 3rd cycle of the week. The little man on the right holding a key, this is key. This is what we need to understand. We need to determine if this is scriptural or not, and our decision should be based on this information. Here we see that Enoch demands the wave sheaf festival on the 26th of the 1st month. I question that. Is that scriptural? I think we know the answer to that. I do not believe it's scriptural. And here's Enoch's 3rd month. The Shavuot of Enoch lands on the 15th of the 3rd month. That is not the same as Joshua's documentation, and it is 11 days later than Joshua's documentation. Got to note that very carefully. So again, is Enoch correct? Does he have linear alignment with the scriptures, or is it a different song marching to a different beat? On Enoch's calendar, dates and days of Sabbaths and feasts never change. You see that lock? It's a fixed calendar. It is locked unto the dates and the days. Enoch's Pentecost is always on the 15th day of the 3rd month. That statement there is going to run Enoch into very serious problems with the documentation of the scriptures. Why does he have it on the 15th day of the 3rd month? There are 2 very distinct reasons for this. We're not going to look at that in this study, but we are going to expose this very distinct, very clear in some future studies coming up. Let's compare this. Joshua's 1st month, we're going to compare it to a lunar 1st month. Here again, we see that Joshua has Passover on the 7th day Sabbath when he entered into Canaan. That's very, very clear by the documentation. Both calendars correctly place Passover on the 14th day of the month. So you look on that lunar 1st month, and we see Passover is indeed on the 7th day Sabbath. However, when the lunar Sabbath calendar has Passover on the 7th cycle, and that is to agree with Joshua, then Sunday The 15th is still the weekly lunar Sabbath, according to their declarations, because they claim that the 15th must be a seventh-day Sabbath. I hope that you see a problem here, because it is a very serious problem. I'm having noise coming through with a microphone. This problem of the lunar Sabbath, this one error declares lunar as a counterfeit. Let's look at it again. We're going to make an adjustment to this lunar month. Note, both calendars still have Passover on the 14th day of the month. However, on the lunar first month, we see that Passover, the 14th day, is now on a 6th cycle of the week, so that they can have their 15th as a 7th-day Sabbath. The problem is the lunar Sabbath calendar now has Passover on Friday, with the 15th listed as the weekly Sabbath. Reminder, it takes only one error to declare a counterfeit. And if you look here, the lunar month does not agree with Joshua. The lunar has the 14th of the first month on a 6th cycle, yet, and that is a fixed calendar, by the way, it cannot change, but yet Joshua has his Passover by documentation and by statute on the 7th-day Sabbath when he entered Canaan. A clear problem here with the lunar-based calendar. Next, we are going on a lunar Sabbath bunny trail, number 2. Does the lunar Sabbath calendar have more errors? Here's some new information with regards to only the spring festivals. Many lunar Sabbath observers do honor the dawn day star truth. Does this prove the whole lunar calendar as true? Very good question. Need to think about that. Unfortunately, the dawn day star truth is combined with a lot of error around the lunar worship statutes, because this lunar Sabbath calendar is tightly locked. Once again, we see that lock. That means the calendar is fixed. It is not movable. It also means that this calendar cannot hold up the statutes of the scriptures. How dangerous can this be? Well, if you want to follow a calendar that breaks the statutes, then there are consequences to take. Is this dangerous? Yes, it has to do with life. The lunar Sabbath calendar is locked to the moon cycles for days and dates. The lunar Sabbath facts for Passover on the 14th. Let's look at this. There is never any allowance for Passover to be on the 4th cycle of the week, unless the 15th is on the 15th cycle, or on the 5th cycle, which is a Thursday. And when the 15th must represent the unleavened bread Sabbath and the weekly Sabbath, there is never any allowance for the Roman guard to be asked for and granted, as the rabbis certainly would not desecrate their weekly Sabbath with this activity. Also, there would never be any allowance for the women to purchase and prepare spices according to the gospel records, and specifically reading about that in Mark 16:1. Also, there would never be any allowance for the 3 days and 3 nights of the messianic prophecy to be fulfilled. Are these important to you? They're written in the scriptures and they need to be fulfilled. To me, this is very, very important. So if the lunar Sabbath demands their fixed calendar and they omit these writings from the scriptures, I think it becomes very, very serious. The next unusual lock for the lunar Sabbath calendar. I'm getting noise coming through the microphones. If we could have them closed, please, that would be appreciated.
I think it's Brenda. Oh, it's okay. She's done.
Okay, Charlene, Charlene, I do have you marked as co-host, so you can bring up that control and you are able to delete or close the microphones in your control if you can. I will.
I don't know. You didn't show me how to do that, so we'll just have to have Mario edit it out. So everybody, if you can please remember to keep your mics closed because we are recording today to replace last night's, and we'll just have to edit this part out.
Yes.
Catherine, mute your mic, please.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm going to start this one again. The next unusual lock for the lunar Sabbath calendar. For the spring feasts, this in turn also means the 15th lunar date must also house the resurrection day every year. That means the 15th can never be the Wave Sheaf Festival as Joshua observed upon entrance into Canaan. So what does that do with Joshua's testimony? It deletes it. Are we to take away from the word? This is only the beginning of the locked problems. There are more, many, many more. The lunar Sabbath calendar has another locked problem connected to the wave sheaf. When the 15th always houses the unleavened bread Sabbath and the weekly Sabbath, then wave sheaf must be celebrated on the 16th of the first month. In turn, this also means the wave sheaf is forever locked and or married to the 16th, just as many other counterfeit moon month calendars. This now directly links to the death of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai on Lag BaOmer. Please note the number on the right in the red box, 33. This is a very, very direct reference to this problem. On the day of Rashbi's death, he revealed the mystical dimension of the Torah known as the Kabbalah, a form of Jewish mysticism. In it is the occult and witchcraft. So this lunar Sabbath system that locks the wave sheaf to the 16th of the first month has a direct connection to this foundation of the occult and the witchcraft from the Kabbalah. Is this a problem? I believe it is. It's a great problem for me. Many lunar Sabbath keepers honor the dawn day start, but that does not sanction the lunar Sabbath calendar. According to the calendar year when Joshua entered Canaan, these were not weekly Sabbaths, and that is the 8th, 22nd, and 29th. These were not weekly Sabbaths in that year when Joshua entered Canaan. The Joshua study teaches the correct weekly Sabbath for those that will seek. And I say, just say no to the lunar Sabbath. And this is the end of this short review on this topic. And here is a serious wave sheaf reminder from part 3. Remember, Enoch's first week delay of, or I should say, Enoch's 1 week delay of wave sheaf removed the very essence and substance for the antitype event and man's salvation. If wave sheaf timing is misplaced in any way, the etzem, which is our understanding of the essence and substance, stands without statute. The etzem, I liken that to the vertebrae. Why a vertebrae? Because etzem has a definition of a bone. That is, the vertebrae is the bone structure which houses the central communication system or the central control system of the body. What is the body? We liken that to the control system, I should say. What is the control system? We liken that to the wave sheaf that is seen directly behind the vertebrae. That wave sheaf is the essence and substance of our salvation. How so? That is directly linked to Yahusha, because Yahusha became the first fruit. He became symbolized by the sheaf of wheat that was presented before Yahuwah. So this XM, wave sheaf A, the bone structure of our salvation, becomes ultra important. When this wave sheaf is misplaced by date in any way, Enoch, are you listening? Then our substance and our essence of salvation is removed from Yahuwah's schedule, and it's planted firmly on Isaiah 14:13, where Lucifer declares that he is going to be in control of the Moedim, the Mount of Congregation. He wants to be in control of it. How does he do it? Well, one of the ways is he moves Wave Sheaf Day to 26th, first month. Serious stuff? Absolutely. It has to do with salvation. When this Wave Sheaf Day is moved, there goes the Moedim. That is the specific date on the calendar when this festival is to be observed. And also with it goes the Chag. That is the theme celebration by how this date of Wave Sheaf is observed. I hope that's understood. Moshe and the Exodus Covenant Calendar Club. Note, there are many details in this study that are necessary to fully understand today's study. The first Passover out of Egypt proves, number one, it proves Abib 1, New Year's Day on the 4th cycle. Number two, it proves the first month, Abib or 14, Passover on the 3rd cycle. It also proves that the Red Sea crossing was on Abib 17 night, Friday night, the 6th cycle. They crossed the Red Sea that night. When did the 7th day Sabbath start? Wasn't there salvation today accomplished at dawn? Was that the preparation night, preparation for the 7th day Sabbath? Didn't they travel all day on the preparation, and then they traveled through the Red Sea all night? Did they need rest on a 7th day Sabbath, which started at dawn? How about the livestock? This livestock needed rest too on the 7th day Sabbath. So when they come out of the Red Sea and their salvation there was finalized at dawn, the salvation today, the next day was a 7th day Sabbath that started at dawn. Also, this account, number 4, if the Wave Sheaf Festival pattern would have been celebrated, placement would have been on Abib 19, and that would have been the start of the Omer count. That is the pattern. That is why I say would have been, because it is a pattern that is established on this account. Number 5, the Exodus from Egypt proves that the quail and the first manna week on the 2nd month from the 17th to the 23rd, and the cycles from the 1st to the 7th cycles were on Sunday to Sabbath. And that was in the 2nd month in the springtime. We're going to look a little bit more closely at that. And it also proves, number 6, Pentecost at Mt Sinai. It was on the 3rd month and the 8th day, much to the chagrin of what Enoch would like to say. We're going to look at that quite closely. After a short review of Moshe and the Exodus, today's study will address, number 1, we're going to look at some commentator comments on the 2nd month of the civil year. Number 2, we're going to look at the double Pentecost count. Is it true or is it counterfeit? Does it have scriptural foundation or does it come from paganism? Let that sink in for a bit. Number 3, this is an interesting one to me. I discovered this, writing this, helping with Charlene, writing this study. This blew me away. Number 3, an added English letter, not word, letter, and its lingering effects on the double count to Pentecost. This information is important for the future studies of, number 4, Enoch's 2 main reasons for choosing Abib 26 for the wave sheaf. And it's number 5, this information is important for future studies of Paul's witness on Yahuwah's Pentecost count. Note, there will be many calendar slides for comparison. So here's something that Isaiah said to us. Isaiah 46, 9 to 10. Actually, he said this to us 7 times if we're very, very careful and we read carefully. Remember the former things of old, for I am Elohim, and there is none else. I am Yahuwah, and there is none like me. Declaring the end from the beginning, and from ancient times the things that are not yet done, saying, my counsel shall stand, and I will do all my pleasure. Declaring the end from the beginning. We're looking at the end times in the very, very, very close future. If we want to know the end and what's going to happen with end time events, Isaiah has told us 7 times we need to understand the beginning. So why is it that the Old Testament and the Torah are not considered so much today by religions today? Declaring the end from the beginning. Let's understand the Torah. Joshua has solidly exposed the correct feast, day and date for the wave sheaf and the beginning of the Omer count. This study will now compare the evidence with Moshe's Omer count to that of a popular Omer count to what? To 99. Next, the Enoch Omer count. Findings will be compared to Paul's witness in the New Testament. Yes? Does Paul witness to the Omer count? We're going to show this in the future. How many of these 3 examples will agree with what is found in the beginning? Or will we find a wolf pretending to be a sheep? Count on it. Reviewing the Omer count from Egypt to Mt Sinai and Shavuot. The chapters are Exodus 12 to 16 to 20. 3 days journey in the wilderness. There's a story behind a 3 days journey. In making this study, this study's been made over several years. It's taken to develop this study. Yes, years, not weeks, not months, but years. This 3 days, I had missed out on it. I did not include it in the study, and I sent the study out to numerous people different times, trying to get the study right. And a friend from Colorado wrote back to me, Tim, he says, you got to put in the 3 days. You cannot miss that. Oh, okay. So I entered in the 3 days journey and the commands that Yahuwah said to travel 3 days. What a difference that made to this study. It's like turning on a light switch. So I'm going to read this again. 3 days journey into the wilderness. A command recorded how many? 3 times in Exodus 3:18, chapter 5, verse 3, and chapter 8, verse 23. And we know what happens when things are recorded more than once in the scripture. It becomes important. Here they are. Number 1, Exodus 3:18. The Elohim of the Hebrews hath met with us, and now let us go, we beseech thee, 3 days journey, not 1 day, not 2 days, but 3 days journey into the wilderness, that we may sacrifice to Yahuwah our Elohim. Number 2, Exodus 5 and verse 3. The Elohim of the Hebrews hath met with us. Let us go, we pray thee, 3 days journey into the wilderness, and sacrifice unto Yahuwah our Elohim, lest he fall upon us with pestilence or with sword. Pretty serious implications right there. I suggest that they obey the 3 days journey. And here's the 3rd time, Exodus 8:27. This is where we see it again. We will go 3 days journey into the wilderness and sacrifice to Yahuwah our Elohim as he shall command us. In other words, Pharaoh, you have no control over us. Yahuwah is going to command us, and it will happen. Yah's Omer count begins in the wilderness. As Yah does not change, neither does his pattern of the set-apart appointment or the Omer count to Shavuot. Yahuwah does not change, Malachi 3:6. Pentecost Torah count of Yahuwah. Let's look at it, refresh our memories. Verse 10, when ye be come into the land which I give unto you, and shall reap the harvest thereof, then ye shall bring a sheaf of the firstfruits of your harvest unto the priest, and he shall wave the sheaf before Yahuwah. I'm going to read that sentence again, and I want you to go forward to the day after Yahusha's resurrection. And he shall wave the sheaf before Yahuwah. Yahuwah observed the wave sheaf. He became the first fruit. Did he not indeed present himself before Yahuwah after he ascended that morning after dawn? Just a thought. I'm going to read this again. And he shall wave the sheaf before Yahuwah to be accepted for you when? On the morrow after the Sabbath, that is the seventh day Sabbath, the priest shall wave it. Did not Yahusha indeed go up and present himself on the morrow after the seventh day Sabbath? Did he not indeed fulfill the statutes? Once again, we identify our Mashiach by the statutes. Note, in this episode of the Exodus, Yahuwah was keeping track of the count en route to Mount Sinai. Verse 15, and ye shall count unto you from when? From the morrow after the Sabbath, that is the seventh day Sabbath, from the day that ye brought the sheaf of the wave offering, 7 Sabbaths shall be complete. 7 completed weeks with 7 Sabbaths. That's 49 days. Yahuwah outlined 49 days explicitly and completely, and precise. Up to this point, have we been recognizing what is written, or have we been looking over it? The word say, even unto, which means up to this point. We're going to look at this in further in the study. Even unto the morrow after the seventh day Sabbath shall ye number 50 days. Please look at the word days. Please note that there is an emphasis on the letter S. Why is that there? Going to leave that for the moment. The count after the wave sheaf must reach to 50, which is the morrow after the seventh day Sabbath. So let's have a review here. Let's look at this. Going to read the text first, Numbers 33:3. And they departed from Ramses in the first month, on the 15th day of the first month, on the morrow after the Passover. Abib 14 was on a third cycle, and they left Egypt, or Mitzrayim, on a fourth cycle, on the 15th day of the month. You'll see there the first day of the journey was 15th, the second was on the 16th, and the third day of the journey was on the 17th. That is your 3 days journey that was repeated 3 times to Pharaoh. Where did that third day bring us to? That brought us to the wadi, or the beach on the Red Sea. That is where Moshe proclaimed, see your salvation today. They crossed the Red Sea that night, and their salvation was finalized at dawn that night. Dawn started the seventh day Sabbath the next day. That was the 18th, and it was a day of praise. Again, it was a day of rest. They needed the rest, the livestock needed the rest, and they needed to praise Yahuwah for the salvation today, which was finalized at dawn. No, the sunset did not change the day in this instance. Only if Yahuwah does not change, this Kodesh Omer count pattern begins here. For the next day, the day after the seventh day Sabbath, this is when the pattern of the wave sheaf would start. I want you to please look at these numbers that are emphasized in yellow. They have the yellow surrounding them. This is going to be your 50-day Omer count, as written in the scriptures. We're going to look at this quite carefully, so please note these numbers. And on the right, you'll see in the pink oval, that is the first completed week. Oops, I forgot to read that. Let me back up. There are 15 days of journey to the 30th day of the first month. Here we're looking at the second month. This is the month where there is quail to manna. Yes, indeed, this is the second month in the springtime. And on the right, you'll see there is the second and third completed weeks. That brings us to number 21 of the Omer count, and it is a seventh-day Sabbath. The next week is very interesting. Let's read about it. Exodus 16:1. And they took their journey from Elim, and all the congregation of the children of Israel came unto the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai. And on the what? On the 15th day of the second month after their departing out of the land of Egypt. So if you look in the calendar chart there, you'll see the brown box. That is the 15th day of the month. It is the sixth cycle of the week. It is a preparation day. This is the day they come in. They were traveling and they entered the wilderness of Sin. What happens on the next day? Again, this is the sixth cycle of the week. What happens on the seventh day Sabbath? On the seventh day Sabbath, the people were murmuring. And if you read in the scriptures, it says the congregation was murmuring. Yes, they were congregating on the seventh day Sabbath. They were not traveling. They were congregating. What were they doing? They were upset with Moshe. They wanted quail. They wanted meat. They were hungry. They wanted the food that they were used to. So Yahuwah says, okay, he says, tonight you're going to have quail. He satisfied them. They're his people, his children. He loves them. And he gave them what they want. But he says, tonight at evening, you're going to eat meat. And tomorrow, you're going to have manna. There comes the manna on the 17th of the month. It is the first day of the week. I want you to note that, the first day of the week. There is other calendars that cannot duplicate this. They physically cannot do this. Yahuwah brought this manna to test the people. He was not going to give them a test of the week and have a few days missing. No, he was giving them manna for 6 days of the week. They were to pick manna for 6 days, double on the 6th day, and nothing on the 7th day. This is a test. This is a very serious test, and he was not going to mess up on the days of the manna. Yes, they started on the first day of the week, and that week was the 5th completed week, and we see next is the 6th completed week. And that brings us to the Omer count of 42. Again, the second month, the quail and the manna. Huge important note for quail and manna. Some claim this quail manna event did not occur in the second month of Yahuwah's festal year of the covenant calendar. This is another fault line that will be addressed at the end of this section. So I want you to note this. Yes, we believe that the quail and the manna come on the second month, but let's look at what we're told that it didn't. Let's look at it. Let's expose it for what it is. Okay, moving to the third month. In context, Yes, I emphasize that for a very explicit reason. Exodus 19:1. In the third month, after the children of Israel had come out of the land of Mitzrayim, on this same day, not date. This is a day of the week. On this same day, they came to the wilderness of Sinai. This same 24-hour cycle of the week as the actual exit from Mitzrayim. The exit occurred on a fourth cycle of the week. And yes, they come into the wilderness of Sinai in the third month on that exact same cycle of the week. Now let's apply this to some charts and see how it fits the scriptures. Will we see this same fourth cycle of the week, or will it be different? Here we are. Which set of calendars demonstrates the same day? On your left, we see that they left Egypt. This is the day of the exit, and it was on the 15th of the month, and it was on the fourth cycle of the week. So when they came into the third month, or came into the wilderness of Sinai on the third month, what cycle of the week was it? It was the same day, or the fourth cycle of the week. Let's look at calendar number 2, because we are told that we must look at the date instead. So we look at the 15th date of the first month, and they left on the 15th date, which indeed is true. And we are told that they came into the wilderness of Sinai on the 15th of the third month. That is a first cycle of the week. There's a difference here. We're going to be looking at this. Is this the truth, or is this a falsehood? We're going to discover this. On the left, this is the same day as in cycles of the week. Midst of the week, the fourth cycle. Calendar number 2 is the same date, different day. So what is it? Is calendar number 1 or calendar number 2 truth? Which one? This requires a decision. We need to be informed, and we need to understand. Otherwise, we could be floundering like a fish on the beach in Yahuwah's feasts. And I say, we say, Charlene and I say, this is the only combination that will satisfy every requirement, read statute, of this calendar puzzle. They did indeed arrive on the same day of the week in the wilderness of Sinai. And there's many other calendars out there. And this documentation must be met by each and every calendar. It is a requirement to uphold the statutes of the scriptures. Covenant calendar does this for you. It does it clearly in brilliant colors. Israel indeed entered the wilderness of Sinai on the same fourth cycle of the week as they left Mitzrayim, the same day. It was not the same date of the month, specifically the 15th. Again, looking at the third month, Exodus 19:1. In the third month, after the children of Israel had come out of the land of Egypt, on this day, they came to the wilderness of Sinai. Note again, they left Mitzrayim on a fourth cycle, and they entered the wilderness of Sinai on a fourth cycle. Yes, I'm repeating this because it needs to be understood. Let's look at the next one here. Entering the wilderness of Sinai and camping at the foot of Mount Sinai are two different days, two different events on two different 24-hour periods. Note the past tense in verse 2, Exodus 19, verse 2. For they were departed from Rephidim and came to the desert of Sinai and had pitched in the wilderness and there Israel camped before the mount. Two different events, 2 different days of the week. On the 5th cycle of the month, they camped before Mt Sinai. Moses makes a trip up the mount, then delivers Yah's message to the people. And if you look on the 5th cycle of the week, you will see trip number 2. There's the arrow. Moses goes up. What happens? He talks to Yahuwah. Yahuwah gives him a proposal that the Hebrew nation should come into covenant with him, and he would be their Elohim. Moses travels back down the mount and delivers the proposal from Yahuwah to the people. The people agree. This is their first acceptance. So what then happens after the first acceptance? And Yahuwah said, if we look on day 6, you'll see the arrow goes back up. Moshe travels back up and brings the acceptance to Yahuwah. Yahuwah says, okay, the people accepted. Here's some instruction for you. Remember, this is day 48 of the Omer count. Please note this, day 48. Yahuwah says to Moshe, and I read the verse below, and Yahuwah said to Moshe, go to the people and set them apart today and tomorrow, which is the 7th day Sabbath, and they shall wash their garments and shall be prepared. By when? By the 3rd day. So if we look on the chart, the calendar there, we see in the colored ovals, there's day 1 and there's day 2. They were to cleanse themselves on day 1. They were to wash their clothes, literally, get the dirt off of them on the first day. So what were they to cleanse on the Sabbath day? They were to cleanse their minds. They were to remove the wickedness of their minds from them. They were to be prepared psychologically also for Yahuwah on day 3. This second day is day 49. This is your end of the 7th week. It is the culmination of 7 Sabbaths. So this is 7 times 7, 49 days of the Omer count. Let's look at the 3rd day. Read on the verse below. For the 3rd day, Yahuwah shall come down upon Mount Sinai before the eyes of all the people. Here is your 3rd day that Yahuwah said he was coming down on the mount. This is the 50th day of the Omer count. It is Shavuot. Yahuwah came down on the mount here in front of all the people on the 3rd day. Please remember this 3rd day, because we're going to be looking at the double count to Shavuot. And I'm going to be questioning what happened on this 3rd day. Not only that, I'm going to be questioning what happened on the 1st and the 2nd day. Did these events actually take place? Just a thought. How can this 8th day be proven to be Yahuwah's Shavuot? Answer: it links back to Torah's wave sheaf according to Yahuwah's Omer count. And remember, that wave sheaf is spoken with the word etzem, that is the bone foundation of an essence of our salvation. So this 3rd day becomes ultra important. You all know that. Here is the Torah commands for the Omer count from wave sheaf, the 1st month, to Shavuot, the 3rd month. Let's look at this and refresh our memories. Number 1, or A, I should say, the 1st month, they were to leave Egypt on the 4th cycle of the week, and it was the 15th day of the 1st month. B, they were to enter the wilderness of Sin on the second month, and it was to be the 15th day of the month. That has to be the 15th day of the month by documentation. And the quail were sent on the day after, which is the Sabbath. It was sent in the evening, and that was the 16th day of the second month. And the manna came the next morning after the quail, and that was the first day of the week, and it was the 17th of the month, the second month. I'm calling out other calendars. Can you meet these declarations, this documentation in the scriptures? Can these other calendars meet this and uphold it precisely? C, the third month, they entered the wilderness of Sinai. When? On the fourth cycle. And the Omer count was number 46. Another thing that other calendars must meet or be thrown in the round file. If they can't uphold these points, then they do not have a calendar. And I tell you that covenant calendar upholds these statutes perfectly. Point number D, or letter D, 50th Omer count and Shavuot, and that is on the first day of the week, on the 8th day of the month. This must be met by documentation and by statute. So look on the left here. The calendar on the left. We see that the 15th day of the month was when they left Sinai, or left Egypt. And they entered the wilderness of Sinai on the fourth day of the month, on the fourth cycle of the week. But yet, if we go into that box, that red box, we see a number 57. When we use the combination of the same date instead of the day of the week, but we use the date of the 15th for both months, this does not work. When we see people use the 15th date, they come to the 57th for an Omer count. Yahuwah does not request 57 days. He said 7 sevens and 1. That brings us to 50, not 57. So using the date of the month, and there are calendars out there that do this, Enoch, using the date of the month does not work. It is confusion, and our author is, or our Yahuwah is not the author of confusion. This documented accuracy and precision, as found in the Exodus, is the only combination that will allow Moshe to receive the 10 Devarim on Mount Sinai in full alignment with the Torah. Covenant calendar, the blood-ratified covenant calendar, fulfills this documentation precisely. The 8th day of the third month fulfills the statute command for Shavuot. Covenant calendar is not locked together with days and dates for weekly Sabbaths and feasts and festivals. Example number 1. The wave sheaf, Shavuot, and the weekly Sabbath are fixed to a cycle, but not to a date. Example number 2. Other festival commands are fixed to a date, but not to a cycle. Anything else is simply an unauthorized misplacement of the etzem. What is the etzem? That is the bone structure of our salvation, and that is linked directly to the Feast of the Wave Sheaf. The etzem, the bone structure of your salvation. Yes, the essence and the substance, complete. And there is the bone structure, the vertebrae that houses the central control system of the body. And Yahusha is the central control of the system of the body. He is the wave sheaf, he is the first fruit. And it is all to be observed on Yahuwah's Moed, and the festival is the Chag festival. That is the theme by which the Moed is observed. Yes, this is the etzem, the essence and substance of our salvation. A misplacement, Enoch, includes any wave sheaf celebration married to Abib 16 on locked calendars. I said Enoch there, but this Enoch does it on Abib 26. This one is referencing a different system to Abib 16, which goes to a rabbi that we saw, that we introduced the Kabbalah. Back to the quail and manna of the second month. Here's bunny trail number 3. The Exodus, chapters 12, 16 to 20, Torah witnesses demonstrate beyond a shadow of any doubt that the quail manna event was in the second month of Yahuwah's festal calendar. What does Exodus 16 have to do with the flood account? And what shall be done about comments like these next ones? Yes, Exodus 16 does have a direct connection to the flood account. But we're going to be looking at some comments by Bible commentaries. Let's examine them very, very carefully. Let's read the scriptures first. Genesis 7:11. In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the second month, the 17th day of the month, fairly explicit with precision, the 17th day of the month, the same day were all the fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened. And the waters returned from off the earth continually. And note this, please, and after the end of the 150 days, the waters were abated. That's what's written in the scriptures. That's what's written in the original Hebrew manuscripts. I'm going to read that again. And after the end of the 150 days, the waters were abated. Genesis 8:4. And the ark rested in the 7th month, on the 17th day of the month, on the mountains of Ararat. Here comes a commentary. Adam Clark's commentary, the second month. The first month was Tishri. Okay. Which answers to the latter half of September and first half of October. And the second was March Shavuot, which answers to part of October and part of November. After the deliverance from Egypt, the beginning of the year was changed. I read that again. The beginning of the year was changed from March Shavuot to Nisan, which answers to a part of our March and April. But it is not likely that this reckoning was obtained before the flood. Where is Clark's documentation to determine the flood account is on this civil calendar? The first month of the fall was changed to the first month in the spring at the Exodus, almost 1,000 years after the flood. Was there absolutely no provision for a festal calendar until 1500 BC? I believe I see provision for a festal calendar very early, long before 1500 BC, but we are told there was a change. Malachi 3:6, for I am Yahuwah, I change not. So let's go back up to that top box and read the red sentences in the middle of the paragraph. After the deliverance from Egypt, the beginning of the year was changed. Malachi 3:6 says, for I am Yahuwah, I change not. Just a thought. There are at least 11 calendar clues in the flood account. Is it possible to determine if these clues match Yahuwah's festal calendar or man's civil calendar? Here's 2 options for us. And we're going to be comparing Clark to Ellicott's commentary. And here it is. In the second month, that is, of the civil year, which commenced in Tishri at the autumnal equinox, the flood thus began towards the end of October and lasted till the spring. Where's the documentation this is a civil year? Just a question. Again, his comment. The ecclesiastical year began in Abib, or April, but it was instituted in remembrance of the deliverance from Egypt and can have no place here. So we're being told that the first time the beginning of the year was in the greening, the month of Abib. We're told it was only instituted for the deliverance of Egypt, in remembrance of it. Interesting thought. Clark said there was no first month in the spring until the Exodus. Ellicott comments as if the festal year was always in place, but didn't get instituted until the Exodus. Which commentator is right? Which one has studied calendar? Now we come to a very interesting paragraph. Please read this carefully and think. The year was evidently a lunar year of 360 days. Do you see the question mark? Why? Because a lunar year cannot accomplish 360-day year. It cannot physically do that. It is an impossibility. But yet this man says the year was evidently, as if it's very easy to understand, the year was evidently the lunar year of 360 days. Okay, let's continue. For the waters to prevail for 150 days. Genesis 7:24, that is truth. And then abate for 150 days. But I thought it said after the 150 days the waters abated. But this man says, and then abate for 150 days, as if there is a second 150 days. And he said he wants us to look at Genesis 8:3. Continuing on with his quote. Now, as the end of the first period of 150 days is described in Genesis 8:4, see, he's telling us there's two 150-day periods in the flood. Continuing on, as the 17th day of the 7th month, whereas the flood began on the 17th of the 2nd month. And note these words, it is plain, in other words, it's very easy to understand this, that the 150 days form 5 months of 30 days each. Do you notice a discrepancy? Is it brilliantly glaring in front of your eyes? Because he has just said that this is a lunar year of 360 days, and now he says the 150 days form 5 months of 30 days each. In the lunar calendar, it is an absolute impossibility to have 5 months of 30 days each. It does not happen. It cannot happen. But yet this man tells us it's so, and he declares it is plain. I ask you, has he studied calendar? How can he comment on this if he has not studied it? Where did that second set of 150 days come from? Again, notice the year is allotted 360 days, but it is called a lunar year. This eliminates any credibility whatsoever in this quote. Continuing on with his commentary on Exodus 12:2, the beginning of months, hitherto the Hebrews had commenced the year with Tishri, at or near the autumnal equinox. In thus doing, they followed neither the Egyptian nor the Babylonian custom. The Egyptians began the year in June with the first rise of the Nile, the Babylonians in Nisanu at the vernal equinox. It was this month which was now made, by God's command, the first month of the Hebrew year, but as yet it had not the name Nisan. It was called Abib, the month of greenness. How does Exodus 12 or 23:16 document the fall equinox time frame is the beginning of the year, when it says the Feast of Ingathering is at the end of the year? Contradiction in terms here? I think so. Henceforth, the Hebrews had 2 years, a civil year and a sacred one. I can agree with that. The civil year began with Tishri in the autumn at the close of the harvest. The sacred year began with Abib, called afterwards Nisan, 6 months earlier. It followed that the first civil year was the 7th sacred month, and vice versa. This comment of Ellicott's does contain an element of truth. What you just read, are you amazed? Does this shock you at all when you pick up a Bible commentator's book that has been published and read it, and it doesn't make any sense whatsoever according to the documentation in the scriptures? Does this surprise you? Should we be amazed? Are you amazed at how some of the most popular commentators actually believe the second month was in the fall in Genesis 7:11? Are you amazed? Why would they believe such, except they are following a Judaic civil calendar? Do you think they were consulting Judaism and the Talmud? Or is there another reason? Would this have anything to do with taking away the key of knowledge and understanding? I'm going to reread that. Would this have anything to do with taking away the Tekufa, thus removing our understanding of Yahuwah's Moedim? Is that the key of knowledge, the Tekufa? That's my thought. The Exodus account is only one witness. Is there a second witness that will remove all doubt? I say yes. Season 2018, where we were presenting calendar topics. Study number 1.10. A proper calendar study proves both events for the flood and the Exodus were established on the same timing as the festal covenant calendar, not man's civil calendar. The following information on the time frame of the flood account is given more coverage in the original study, thus noted. The final witness to this Torah truth is found in Yahusha's Omer count from his wave sheaf to the Shavuot festival of Acts. Next to be considered. Number 1, we're going to look at calendar clues in the flood account. We're going to look at comparisons to several calendar options. We're going to look at only the covenant calendar year of Yahusha's death aligns with perfection. I'm going to read that again because I want you to take note of point number 3. The importance on point number 3, it should be bouncing across the screen to get your attention. Let me read it. Only the covenant calendar year of Yahusha's death aligns with perfection. Here is a question about Noah. Would Yahuwah place calendar clues in Noah's flood account for a special reason? Only the last calendar clue in the flood account will be addressed in this study. Look at the brown box. On the right side, actually, let's go back to the month column. It is the second month. It is the 27th day. And you'll see that in Genesis 8:14. Noah leaves the ark on the 27th day on the second month, and that is by command of Yahuwah. Do we really care what day Noah left the ark? Obviously, Yahuwah does. He inspired it. He inspired it for a specific reason. So why is it that it is documented that Noah left the ark on the second month on the 27th day? What does that for us in the future? Do you remember that last comment on that last slide, the last question about identifying Yahusha in his final year on this earth? Is there a connection? Is there a link? Is there a prophecy from Noah's ark? Let's look at it. Actually, I should say, not a prophecy. Is there a type written in Noah's ark when he left, or not in the ark, when he left the ark? Is there a type that must be fulfilled by Yahusha on his last day of this earth? Is it there? Just a thought. Let's think about this. Question number 2 about Yahusha. Would Yahuwah place calendar clues in the scriptures to allow the discovery of Yahusha's 70-week ministry, locking down important dates? Yes, 70-week ministry, not 3 years. 70 weeks. Do we have these calendar clues, is the question. What about water to fire in 70 weeks? Another innocent question. What reason did Yahuwah have to inspire these seemingly insignificant details? Are they insignificant? I have read over them and read over them and read over them. But I must admit, it's only in the last little while that I have realized that documentation of Noah leaving the ark is highly significant. Let's read it. Genesis 8:14. And I ask you, how many times have you read over this documentation and just kept on reading? I read, and in the second month, on the 27th day of the month, the earth was dry. Precision, accuracy, and precision inspired by Yahuwah. Why? Just because he needs us to know when Noah left the ark? Or is there another reason? Verse 15. And Elohim spoke to Noah, saying, go out of the ark, you and your wife and your sons' wives with you. The command was to leave the ark. Noah left that ark and was embarking on a brand new era. Think about that. He was commanded to leave and go somewhere else. Is it possible that we can positively identify the Mashiach and the blood-ratified calendar in one single swipe with this information? And I'm going to read this again, verse 14. And in the second month, on the 27th day of the month, it was commanded, go out of the ark. Let's continue. The original study compared several true and false calendars in great detail. We will look quickly and specifically at these 6 calendars for the 40th day of the Omer count to see if that day will place on the 27th day of the second month. Does that seem strange? You're going to see why later. We're looking for the 40th day of the Omer count, and it must be on the second month on the 27th day. And I say it must be. Will any of these calendars declare the Passion year of our true Mashiach? Will we be able to identify covenant calendar and the true Mashiach by these dates and days? The 40th day of the Omer count, that's what we're looking for, and the second month, the 27th day. Let's go. Here is the lunar solar calendar and the Friday Passover. We are looking for the 27th day of the second month. By the way, this is a false calendar because it is a lunar solar calendar. But let's look at it. There's that box in the yellow outline. There's an X in it. That's the 27th. We're looking for that. But the Omer count is 42. That's not correct. We're not looking for that. The 40th day of the Omer count is not on the second month, the 27th day. So this calendar does nothing for us. And of course, it's a lunar calendar, so it does nothing for us either. But let's continue. Here is the lunar solar calendar again, but this time it is the Wednesday Passover. Remember, Yahusha was crucified on the fourth cycle of the week. So let's look at it. The 27th day of the second month on this false calendar. Where is the Omer count, 40? It's in the green box on the left where it says 25 to the 40th. So right now, the 27th of the second month does not have the 40th Omer count. It is the 42nd of the Omer count. Once again, we have a false calendar, or a false calendar, and this calendar does not identify with Noah's documentation nor with Yahusha's final year. So we discard this calendar. Here's Enoch's calendar. Enoch has Passover always, and it's locked to the third cycle of the week in the first month. Let's look at it. The 27th day of the second month, that's what we're looking for on this false calendar. Where's the Omer count? The Omer count is not correct. The Omer count is 32 in that yellow outlined box. It does not work. This calendar does not fulfill the type and the antitype of Noah's documentation. So we're going to discard this calendar. Goodbye calendar, goodbye Enoch. Now here is Moshe. We know Moshe kept the covenant calendar. So this is a true calendar. It is a covenant calendar. But we are looking to see if this instance identifies the type set by Noah and the antitype that should be fulfilled by the Mashiach, the correct Mashiach. So let's look at it. The 27th day of the second month, where is it? Well, we look here and the 27th is on the Omer count number 41. The 40th count, what we're looking for, is in the green box right beside it. So once again, the X marks the spot. The 40th day of the Omer is not on the second month, the 27th day. So this true calendar, this rotation of the year, cannot identify the true Mashiach, nor fulfill the type and antitype. So we are going to set this calendar aside and look at another one. Here's Joshua. Now Joshua, we know, is incredibly on his calendar documentation. This is a Sabbath Passover when he entered Canaan. And we're looking to see if this year can fulfill the proper type and antitype documentation that we saw coming out of Noah. The 27th day of the second month. There in the yellow outline box, we see an X again. Why? Because the Omer count is at 43 and we need 40. The 40th day of the Omer is not on the second month, the 27th day. So this year of covenant calendar cannot identify the true Mashiach by the type and the antitype. So we're going to set this calendar aside. Here we are. Let's look at this. This is the year that Yahusha was crucified. This is the Wednesday Passover, or the fourth cycle Passover. We're looking for the 27th day of the second month. And we're looking for the Omer count, number 40. Look in that box in the middle. You'll see that that check mark is outlined with yellow. There we see the 27th day of the second month has the 40th marked on it. This is the 40th of the Omer count. Let's read the box below. Yahusha's Passover this year is the only calendar where the 40th day of the Omer count links to the second month, the 27th day. And this is pinpointing the one true Mashiach. Why? We'll get into that in a bit. But we now know that the date that Noah was commanded to leave the ark is a very highly significant date. That date type, we now find in the exact format in the year that Yahusha was crucified. Type and antitype, let's look at it. How does the 40th cycle of the Omer count, specifically on the 27th cycle of the second month, have any connection whatsoever to Yahusha HaMashiach? Where is the connection? Why? What are we getting at here? Look at this again. This is the year of the crucifixion. Read on the box on the right. Yahusha's Passion year on the covenant calendar is the only combination that can satisfy all these requirements. And I say the covenant calendar is the only calendar that can do this, because I have not seen another calendar that can fulfill this documentation and these requirements. I have not seen any other calendar even come remotely close. So let's look at the covenant calendar fulfillments here. Number one, covenant calendar fulfills the fourth cycle cross. Covenant calendar fulfills 3 days and 3 nights. Covenant calendar upholds the Sabbath resurrection. Covenant calendar has the first cycle wave sheaf, and attention here, please. Covenant calendar houses the 40th day of the Omer count on the 27th day of the second month. Please read this carefully. This is the day of Yahusha's second ascension. Noah was commanded to leave the ark, go to a different, or start a different era, a new beginning. That is the type. And on this very day, the exact same day, the exact same year format, Yahusha left this earth to start a new era of our salvation. Is there a direct link? Is there a connection? Is it possible that we can identify Yahusha through this type and antitype situation from Noah to this day of the ascension? Why is the placement of this 40th day so important? Or is it a secret? But I thought we read in the scriptures that nothing has been read, or nothing has been written in secret. It will be revealed. What's so special about the 27th day of the second month in Yahusha's second year? It is no secret. Yahusha left the earth on this exact day. Did he fulfill the antitype Let me read here. Acts 1, 9 to 11. While they beheld, he was taken up, and a cloud received him out of their sight. And while they looked steadfastly toward heaven as he went up, behold, two men stood by them in white apparel, which also said, Ye men of Galilee. Notice that, of Galilee. Why stand ye gazing up into heaven? This same Yahusha, which is taken up from you into heaven, shall so come in like manner as ye have seen him go into heaven. Yes, Yahusha ascended on this exact same day as the day that Noah was commanded to leave the ark. Does that give us any reason to understand why the documentation of Noah was so precise when he was just commanded to leave the ark? Yahuwah's timing is absolutely impeccable beyond our comprehension. This is the day Noah left the ark, and I'm going to read it. Genesis 8, 14 to 16. And in the second month, on the 27th day of the month, was the earth dried. And Yahuwah spoke to Noah, saying, Go forth of the ark. There is your type. Yahusha left the earth. This is your antitype on the year of their crucifixion that identifies with accuracy, identifies the authentic Mashiach, the one that we should walk in his footsteps. When Noah exited the ark, it was the type pattern. This Kodesh pattern was to be fulfilled by Yahusha in the antitype. Remember this question about Noah? Would Yahuwah place calendar clues in Noah's flood account with the alignment to Yahusha? And would that happen 2,300 years before the cross? I think Charlene has a comment that she would like to make here. Charlene, I'd like to invite you to open up your mic and have some comments for us.
Yes, the timeline of 2,300 years is one that really catches our attention, because in Daniel 8:14 it talks about after 2,300 years, it says, then the sanctuary will be cleansed. Well, when we kind of take a look at this, and this is in generalities, the flood happened approximately 2,300 years before the cross, and that was a cleansing of the earth at that time. We know at the cross it was a cleansing with blood, but there is another set of 2,300, pretty close, in the scattering of the northern tribes of Israel by Assyria around 721 BC. If you go forward 2,300 years, you will land around 1582, which was the time where Pope Gregory had to drop 10 days from the calendar because everything was out of sync with the harvests and the spring and fall equinox. So that was a good thing. That needed to be done. So that was a little bit of a cleansing of a calendar. When you look at the shipwreck with Paul, there's an interesting number there. I think it's of 256 men that were on the boat. And I did some work around that, shared it with another friend. And as I had been coming across this 2,300 is why I shared the 2,300 with him. And he said, oh, but Charlene, there's 23. I think if you do 12 times 23, he said 12 is the number of Yah's government. But he said he found that the number 23 had always something to do with cleansing. And I just went, wow, there is something really big here. I believe 12 times 23 is 256, and there was that many men on the ship. So this is just another one of those little calendar things that are kind of fun bunny trails to look at, that 2,300 is a time of cleansing. There are also some really good studies out there on these 2,300 timeline in Daniel 8 is in an application for 2,300 literal days at the end of time with the bride as she brings in the harvest. And of course, wouldn't that be another cleansing so that when the harvest comes in, we're all ready to go. So I just wanted to make that point and just give you something to think about and have fun with it.
Thank you, Charlene. I greatly appreciate your comments. I really, really appreciate it. So I'm going to read this question again, and I want you to keep in mind what Charlene had spoken to us about. Would Yahuwah place calendar clues in Noah's flood account with alignment to Yahusha? Go down to the bottom in that brown box again. On the second month, on the 27th day, Noah left the ark, and that aligns directly with Yahusha's ascension. Pretty clear to me that Yahusha fulfilled the antitype. Do these clues solve the time frame for the flood and the Exodus being in the spring of the year? I believe it makes it pretty solid that the flood and the Exodus were in the spring of the year, contrary to what some commentators say. What is the verdict on the Bible commentators? Every Bible commentator has to be aligned with the Torah for any calendar time frames. However, due to the strong influence of Judah's counterfeit calendars and a reputation that they are not worthy to have, many put their faith and trust in a variety of commentators. Also remember, the covenant calendar of the Gospels and Yahusha's ministry must align with the Torah. Covenant calendar will continue to detect and reveal counterfeit teachings. And I believe it does that very, very well. The truths keep coming and keep coming. It just never ceases to astound me what we find with the covenant calendar. And the accuracy is just, it blows me away. So what is the conclusion? The Manna Week is indeed found in the second month of the festal calendar. There is no doubt. This is the end of this bunny trail. Now we're going to go to a very interesting topic. Next up, a comparison to an alternate Omer count recognized as correct by some feast keepers who are looking for a wheat harvest. Are you ready to go on a bunny trail to examine another counterfeit Pentecost count? And I think this bunny picture there should be a jackrabbit, because this is a big trail, a very, very serious one, and it takes off in a long shot. Let's look at it. Is it counterfeit or is this scriptural? Bunny trail number 4. Counterfeit count for Pentecost exposed. Shall we count to 50 as written in the scriptures? Or are we mistaken? Or shall we count to 99 for Pentecost? 99 is an interesting number. It's not a rounded number. It's not an even number. Just an interesting number. Campsite number 11. Mt Sinai is the 11th camping place out of the 42 campsites on the way to Canaan. Israel was encompassed by pagan nations on every side, being held at bay by the divine protection of the pillars of cloud and fire. The root word for Sinai means tares, thorns, and demons. Wow, pretty interesting definitions for Sinai. Very interesting definitions for a place that Yahuwah would choose to come down on the mountain. In the Syriac language, Sinai means to shine as the moon, which was an object of worship in this area. And yet Yahuwah chose this place to come down on the mount. I believe there is a very, very specific reason for this. In the New Testament, these root meanings link to Antichrist. Yahuwah chose this spot to proclaim himself as the highest Elohim, with plans to bring Yisrael into everlasting covenant with him, to which they agreed for a very short time, as we know. It was at this spot where his Pentecost fire rained down upon Mount Sinai. It was at this spot where Aharon erected the golden calf idol on an altar that still stands today, giving credit to the false Trinity gods, most definitely including moon goddess worship. Also, in these very same verses of Exodus is where multiple counterfeits are taught as true Shavuot timing. Hasatan likes to develop counterfeits. It's what he does. So let's read this again. Refresh our memory. Alternate Pentecost count in Torah. Verse 10. When ye be come into the land which I give unto you, and shall reap the harvest thereof, then ye shall bring a sheaf of the firstfruits of your harvest unto the priest. And he shall wave the sheaf before Yahuwah. He shall wave the sheaf before Yahuwah. And I'm thinking ahead to Yahusha's time when he observed the wave sheaf. I'm going to start again. And he shall wave the sheaf before Yahuwah to be accepted for you when? On the morrow after the Sabbath. The priest shall wave it. Who was the priest when Yahusha observed wave sheaf day by being the first fruit? Who was the priest? Wasn't that Yahusha HaMashiach himself, the Melchizedek high priest? I believe it was. Let's go to verse 15. And ye shall count unto you from the morrow after the Sabbath, that is the seventh day Sabbath, from the day that you brought the sheaf of the wave offering, 7 Sabbaths shall be complete. Would that be 7 times 7 equals 49 days for the first part of the count? Do we read in the scriptures something about a first and second part? A first count and a second count? Even unto the morrow after the 7th Sabbath, the 49th day, shall ye number 50 days. There's that S that has the emphasis around it. Why is that S there? Does that S indicate that we should add another 50 days as in a plurality of days? Would that be 59 plus 50 equals 99 days to Pentecost count? Why does that S have an emphasis on days? Something to think about. Okay, we are going to go over this and we're going to do some comparison. So I want you to stick with me here if you can. Hopefully I don't go too fast. Some say the Pentecost count extends to 99 days, not 50 days. Keep in mind, some counterfeit wave sheaf Omer counts begin on the 16th. So we're looking at the Omer count pattern here, and we start on the left-hand side on the 19th. And it is wave sheaf day on the first day after the 7th day Sabbath. This is in the Exodus. We're looking at the pattern here. The Omer count begins on number 1 on the 19th day. Those numbers in the yellow are going to declare the Omer count. So I want you to look very carefully at that because we are going to 99 this time. Why 99? Because that's what we have been told by many people. There is a double count to Pentecost. So let's look at it. Pay close attention to these yellow numbers. On the right, you will see number 1 in the pink oval. That is the first week, the first completed Sabbath. Where will this 99 teaching lead to? Is it going to uphold the statutes of the scriptures? Or are we going to see paganism fulfilled? Are we going to see paganism which is documented in the scriptures? Just something to think about. First, we will count the 7 completed weeks, including 7 weekly Sabbaths. On the right, you will see 2 and 3. That's your second and third completed weeks. That brings us to number 21 of the Omer count. Then there is the 4th completed week. This is when they were in the wilderness. They were murmuring. They wanted the quail, or they wanted meat. So Yahuwah gave them the quail. He gave them the manna the next day. Then comes the manna week. That is completed. The 7th-day Sabbath comes. There's no manna. What Omer count was this? That is number 35 of the Omer count. And the 5th week, the 5th completed week has been fulfilled. There is the 6th completed week, and the Omer count is at 42. Not many more to go. Let's go into the 3rd month. We're going to compare. You see that question, 3rd month, doing what at Mount Sinai? You see the 1st and 2nd day in the colored ovals. You see the arrows where Moshe traveled up and down the mountains, trips 2 and 3. You see the word today and tomorrow in the 7th day, where Yahuwah spoke to Moshe. I'm asking you, are these necessary on a 99-day count to Shavuot? Why are these documented in the scriptures so early if we are to travel to 99 days for Shavuot? What were they doing at Mount Sinai on these days, 47, 48, and 49, if it wasn't the time? Was this a practice? Was Moshe practicing? Did Yahuwah need practice speaking? I don't think so. Let's continue. The 7 completed weeks and 7 weekly Sabbaths are now counted and at 49 days. This is the outline of your 7 Sabbaths. 7 weeks have been completed. Did Moshe still need to make these trips up the mountain if we're going to the 99-day count? They're documented in the scriptures. What happened to counting the 3rd day that follows the tomorrow? Remember, Yahuwah said, "For on the 3rd day I will come down on the mount." When he said that, did he extend that to the 99th day? Did he send Moshe a memo saying, "Oh, there's been a delay, we're going to wait until the 99th day"? Yahuwah said everything has been spoken in the scriptures and nothing has been spoken of in secret. So I do not find that memo to Moshe saying that there has been an extension to the 99th day. But we're told about it, so let's look at it. Here we go. Note the yellow emphasized numbers. These are the days to the 99 count. On the right, we say 56 days, 63 days, 70 days, and in the middle we see 72 days to the Omer count, to the 99 count. This comes on about, and very approximate, June 18. This is just so we have an idea basically of where it's at. So it's the 30th day of the month, and it's the 72nd count to the 99 Omer count. Here we are in the 4th month, approximately, again, June 19 to July 19th. We are now at 72 days, and we're still counting to the 99th day. You will notice the numbers of the Omer count are now colored in red with the yellow emphasis. So let's look at these numbers and count these numbers out. On the right, we see 77 days, 84 days, 91 days, 98 days. That's 1 day off of 99. These are your completed weeks to the 99-day Pentecost count. On the left, 99th day on the 26th of the 4th month. And that's approximately July 15, just approximate. The 99th day is the 26th day of the 4th month, and approximately July 15. This is claimed to be the wheat harvest. What else is it? What else happens on this day? Let's look at this again. This is a bit of a review again. 77, 84, 91, 98. 99 days to the Omer count. On the surface, this 99-day count may not seem to be a problem. Everything looks in order. We have the weeks completed with their 7th-day Sabbath. However, next we will overlay the events of Moshe from Exodus 24 and Exodus 32 to see what happens. Yes, we are digging into scripture, and we're going to lay this scripture on top of this count. What happens? First, we're going to review the events in Exodus 19 to 20, or to chapter 20, verse 20 in the 3rd month. Chapter 19, verse 6 first. Yahuwah proposes his covenant to the people. Verse 8, the people agree to come into covenant. This is the first acceptance. Very important to notify that, or to notice that. Verse 10, Yahuwah says they were to sanctify themselves today and tomorrow. That would be the 6th and 7th days of the 3rd month. Wash and be ready by the 3rd day. Verse 11, on the 3rd day, which was the 8th day of the 3rd month by documentation in the scriptures, the people are to meet around the base of Mount Sinai, and they are to be cleansed thoroughly, their clothes and their minds. Wickedness is to be removed from their minds. Chapter 20, verse 1 to 17. The people meet on the 8th day of the 3rd month. This is documented in the scriptures. They met on the 8th day of the 3rd month to hear the first 10 Devarim of Yahuwah's covenant. Chapter 20, verse 18 to 20. The 8th day, still. The people are terrified. They are frightened, and they beg Moshe, go up the mount and get the remaining words of the covenant for us, because we do not want to hear. We are terrified that this mountain is shaking, and the lightning and the fire and the winds, and they are terrified. They ask Moshe, go back up the mountain. He does. And here's more review. This goes from Exodus 20, verse 21 to 24:11. The first one here, this is still the 8th day. It is the first cycle, and it is a Sunday, as we understand in pagan terms. Moshe goes up the mount. This is trip number 5 to get the remaining words of the covenant for the people. Chapter 24, verse 1 to 8. This is still the 8th day, the first cycle, and a Sunday. It is the 8th day of the month. It is the 3rd day on which they were to be cleansed. Moshe speaks the rest of the words of the covenant to the people. See, he's come back down the mountain again. He speaks the rest of the words of the covenant to the people. And this is the second acceptance for Yahuwah's covenant. The second acceptance. Moshe writes the laws in the book of the covenant. What? Moshe writes the laws in the book of the covenant? This is the first mention of the book of the covenant, and yet we do not have the stone tablets yet. But here we understand that covenant that Yahuwah proposed, Moshe writes these words into a book, and it is called the Book of the Covenant. Moses reads the covenant words to the people. The people give third acceptance for Yahuwah's covenant. What's blood ratified then? It is the Book of the Covenant, which was then blood ratified. Note, Moshe does not have the tablets yet, but yet the Book of the Covenant was then blood ratified. And I would like to mention, in that blood ratification is the calendar, the exact format that Moshe was trained in to bring the Hebrews out of Mitzrayim. The calendar, the covenant calendar, is blood ratified. And what else was blood ratified? The people are sprinkled with blood. Remember, this is still the 8th day, the 3rd month. It is Shavuot, and it is the 50th day from the wave sheaf. This is the Kodesh appointment pattern by statute from Yahuwah. Continuing on, chapter 24, 9 to 11. This is approximately the 9th and the 10th days. It is the 2nd and 3rd cycle. It is Monday and Tuesday in pagan terms. A total of 75 elders journey partway up Mount Sinai to partake of the covenant confirming meal. This is where it will be signed and sealed for eternity, permanent. Okay, now it gets interesting. Let's chart these events on the calendar months. This is where the pedal meets the road. This is where charts do not lie. This is the 3rd month, and there's the detail of events, and yes, we are counting to 99, the double count of Shavuot as claimed. On the left, we see the count, the Omer count in yellow, 43, 44, 45, 46, the first day in the wilderness of Sinai. We see that in Exodus 19, verse 1. 47 count. Moshe goes up Mount Sinai and he talks to Yahuwah. Yahuwah says, maybe the Hebrew nation, no, he didn't say maybe. He said, the Hebrew nation should come into covenant with me. What do you think, Moshe? I'll give you this covenant. You go down to the people and ask them. So Moshe travels back down the mountain. That's trip number 2. And he gives this word, this covenant to the people. He relates to them the words of the covenant, and the people accept. It is the first acceptance of the covenant by the Hebrew nation. After they accepted it, Moshe then on the next day, on the 48th day of the Omer count, traveled back up the mountain and gave the acceptance to Yahuwah. This is trip number 3. Yahuwah says, great. He says, tell the people that today and tomorrow they are to cleanse themselves. For on the 3rd day, I'm going to come down on the mount. So Moshe then goes back down the mount on the 48th day of the Omer count. He goes back down the mount. The next day is the Sabbath. It is the 49th day. It is the tomorrow which the people are supposed to cleanse their minds of wickedness. It is the 7th day Sabbath. That is number 2 day. What happens on the next day? It is the 50th day of the Omer count. It is the 8th of the 3rd month. There is 2 trips for Moshe up and down the mount. Moshe is in good shape. What's the first one? He goes up to talk to Yahuwah, and Yahuwah sends him back down and tells people to stay away from the mount because they are getting close and Yahuwah will take them out. And then when Yahuwah is speaking on the mount, the people are terrified and they tell Moshe, get back up there and get the words from Yahuwah. We are terrified. So it is this 3rd day that Moshe travels back up the mount to get the 10 Devarim from Yahuwah. This is Shavuot. And we read about that in Exodus 20, verse 1 to 24, verse 8. That is the 10 words, or the Devarim, that is the covenant that was blood ratified. There is that blood ratification that was done on this time frame here. The 9th day of the month. This is 51 of the Omer count. What happens after the blood ratification has taken place? On this day, on the day 51 of the Omer count, is the start of trip 6. When we see 6a, there's 75 elders. They meet in Mt Sinai. This is the beginning of trip number 6. They meet. What happens? Day 52 of the Omer count to 99, the elders travel up the mountain, and they're up there halfway to have a covenant meal. They are going to have a very special meal. This signs and seals and ratifies the blood ratified covenant. It will be final on this day, halfway up the mountain. At this point, day 53, halfway up the mountain, and Charlene, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is halfway up the mountain, Moshe gives instructions to Aharon. He is to stay at on this portion of the mountain, and he is to look after the camp, take care of things, hold the fort. Aharon, you are in charge. Together, Moshe and Joshua prepare to go further up Mount Sinai for the next 7 days. They are going farther up the mount. And here is day 57 of the Omer count, day 58 of the Omer count, and day 59, trip 6C. Moshe leaves Joshua on day 7 to ascend to the top of the mount. This is just Moshe. Joshua has to stay down part way up the mountain, and only Moshe goes up. This is trip 6C. Moshe will be up in Mount Sinai for the next 40 days and 40 nights. Note the days of the 99 count to the Omer. Moshe is now within that 99-day Omer count, and he, at the end of this week, on the 7th-day Sabbath, he will have been in Mount Sinai at the top for 4 days of his 40 days and 40 nights. And again, this is on day 63 of the 99 count. Here we are, 1 week completed. And we are at day 70 of the 99-day Omer count. Moshe, on the 7th-day Sabbath, has now been up in the mount for 11 days of his 40 days and 40 nights. Here we see day 71 and day 72 of the Omer count to 99. This is approximately June 18. And Moshe, at this point, has been on the mount 13 days of his 40 days and 40 nights. Let's go to the next month. But first, Moshe was up in the consuming fire of Mount Sinai for the last 13 days of the 3rd month. And we read that in Exodus 24, verse 17. Here is the 4th month and the events that follow. And this is approximately, again, June 19 to July 18, just so we have an idea where we're at. On the left-hand side, you will see that the 3rd month is carried over onto the chart. Days 71, 72 are there, and days 13 of Moshe's 40 days and 40 nights. So let's continue with the 4th month events. This week is fulfilled. On the seventh day Sabbath, we see it's at the 77 count towards 99. Moshe is at the 18th day of his 40 days and 40 nights stay. The next week is fulfilled, and Moshe will be staying up in the consuming fire of Mount Sinai for the first 27 days of the fourth month. Again, we see that in Exodus 24, verse 17. On the right there again, we see on the seventh day Sabbath, the 84-day count to 99, and Moshe on the 25th day of his 40 days and 40 nights. We're keeping track of the count here. We need to be very accurate of what happens, because what you're going to see is going to open up eyes. So what was happening? What was Aaron doing? Aaron was told to take care of the camp, look after things. You're in charge, Aaron. What was Aharon doing? In the meantime, Aharon is fashioning a golden calf for worship that we can read about in Exodus 32, 1-6. This week, on the seventh day Sabbath, when it's fulfilled, we see the 91 count to the 99 days of Pentecost, according to some people. And Moshe has 32 days of his 40 days and 40 nights stay. We're getting close. We're getting close. What comes up? 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98. The final week of the 99-day Omer count is fulfilled on the seventh day Sabbath. We are at 98. We have one more day to go to the Omer count, according to some people. Where is Moshe at this point in time? What is happening? Moshe is on day 39 of his 40 days and 40 nights. He has one more day on the mount. One more day towards the 99-day count. What happens? What are we going to see on this incredible day, 99? It is the fourth month. It is the 27th day of the month. It is the first day after the seventh day Sabbath. It is the 99th day of the Omer count, and it is the 40th day of the 40th day of Moshe's stay on the mount. The 27th day of the fourth month, Moshe completes the 40th day. Moshe, with the tablets, meets Joshua to return to camp. What does he find on the 99th day of the Omer count? On the 99th day of the Omer count, this counterfeit Pentecost count, Moshe encounters the camp is worshiping a golden calf. Is that the day of the feast of Shavuot to Yahuwah? Or is it a pagan festival that worships pagan gods? This is the day that Moshe came down with the tablets of stone. What did he do with the tablets of stone? As we all know, he shattered them in anger. This is the 99th day of the count to Shavuot, according to some people, and it is observing the golden calf. It is observing a pagan festival. It is most certainly not the day of Shavuot for Yahuwah. This is a pagan count. The double count to Shavuot is a pagan festival designed to lure us in to worshiping pagan gods. This is serious stuff, people. This is serious stuff. We need to look at this and decide where we stand. As Joshua says, For me and my family, we will worship Yahuwah. Exodus 32:4. These be thy gods, O Yisrael, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. This is day 99. This was what Aharon declares. These be thy gods, the false gods, the no gods, the Trinity. This is day 99, the pagan festival, the 40th day that Moshe brought down the tablets that he shattered in anger. Moshe was upset because he knew this was paganism in its finest. This golden calf actually represents the full worship of the false trinity, the round disc, Nimrod and Baal, or the sun god, the altar, Semiramis and Ashtoreth, the moon goddess, and the calf, Tammuz, the false Messiah. And we are here today to determine the authentic Mashiach. This one here on the 99th count to Shavuot is Tammuz glorified. Is it feasible for a 99-day Omer count to be genuine for the giving of the stone tablets? Is that the day that Yahuwah sent out the Ruach on the pattern, on the antitype, when the disciples were in Jerusalem? Is this the day, the paganism day? No, it's not. People, this is a false doctrine, a false teaching to the 99th count, the 99th day, or the double count of Pentecost. This is paganism. Say no to 99. Children of Israel fell into idolatry, worshiping the pagan trinity, while professing to worship Yahuwah. Many are tempted by this same false worship today. When rebellious worship is offered to Yahuwah, as the pagans worship their false gods, can Yahuwah's Ruach continue to dwell in their soul temple? Or will Yahuwah's Ruach flee instantly and leave us to our misery? Say no to 99. Reason number one to say no to the 99-day Omer count: it honors the golden calf. Is there another witness against this 99-day Omer count that needs to be considered? From the words of the Septuagint, Leviticus 23:15-16. And ye shall number to yourselves from the day after the Sabbath, from the day on which ye shall offer the sheave of the heave offering, 7 full weeks. Until the morrow after the last week, ye shall number 50 days, and shall bring a new meat offering to Yahuwah. Did anybody notice that S on the right-hand side with the pink or purple emphasis around it? What is that S doing? Why is it emphasized? Why is it there? You see those question marks? What is it? Let's consider the Hebrew word for unto. H5704, ad, ayin dalet. Even unto the morrow after the 7th Sabbath, the 49th day, shall ye number 50 days. There's that S again. Does that S indicate that we are to add another 50 days? Would that be 49 plus 50 equals 90 days to the Pentecost count? What does Hebrew have to say about this? Let's put some light on this S. Unto, odd. This is the Hebrew word odd for unto. We're going to look at this first before we get to the S. This word out of the BLB, let's look at it, the Blue Letter Bible. It's a preposition. The definition, I'm going to read the highlighted definitions. Number 1, as far as, up to, even to. Number 2, as far as. Number 3, even to, till, and end. And number 4, I like number 4 quite a bit. To the degree of. A degree is highly precise. The accurate is paramount. To the degree of. There is a place, a limitation here. Number 2, to the point that. Again, there is a limiting point in force. Let's look to the EDHL, or the Etymological Dictionary of the Hebrew language. The definitions of odd: to, unto, up to, even to. Or it can be eternity, perpetuity, booty, witness, testimony, menstruation. Obviously, those are not part of the context that we are looking for. We need to stick with context. So to the highlighted ones, up to and even to. Okay, with the words on context, let's look at context again and be careful. This word ought, from the Gesenius lexicon: to pass over, to go on, passing, progress, then duration, hence perpetuity of time, eternity. Is this what we're looking for? Is the count of the Omer for eternity? No, not at all. So this is obviously the wrong context. We must stay with the context of what we're looking for. What about these ones? To, even to some certain limit. Yes, there is a limit that we must recognize. Even to the great river. If you were walking to a river and it was there, would that propose a limit to you if you couldn't swim? Yes, the great river is a limit. Definitions must be chosen according to the context. Even unto this day, until the morning, until the evening. A limiting border is established at the referenced article. Why is it when we hear until the morning, we know to stop at morning, or until the evening, we know to stop at morning, but yet in the scriptures, when we go to the Omer count, we just continue on, or we're told to just continue on with a second count to 50. Why is that? There is a reason. Let's look at it. More definitions for the word ought from Gesenius. Even to the highest degree. What is that highest degree? The highest stipulated degree that Yahuwah has given us is the 7 completed Sabbaths. That is the highest degree. More definitions. Until, so long as, used of a limit of time, until the pursuers returned. Again, there is an established reference point with a restriction. Even to a great degree, even that. What is that great degree? Once again, Yahuwah has outlined 7 completed Sabbaths. That is our reference point, and there is a restriction given. We need to understand this. What is the divine instruction that we are to consider with this highly defined point of reference? The 7 completed Sabbaths. That is our reference point. And what is the instruction that we are to do with this reference point? Until the morrow after. That is our instruction, that we are to operate on the 7 completed Sabbaths. Until the morrow after, at the point of the subsequent 24-hour period following. In other words, when your walk to Hawaii encounters the west coast of North America, your walk stops. At the 7 completed Sabbaths, that is where our limit is. That is where we stop. And Yahuwah has given instruction what to do with that completed 49 days of completed Sabbaths. He says, until the morrow after that 7 completed Sabbath point. Until the morrow after the 7th Sabbath, your walk stops here at the 7th completed Sabbath. I'm going to read this verse again because it links directly with the next slide. So I want you to pay attention to this verse carefully. Until the morrow after the 7th Sabbath, you count 50 day.
Oh, but hey, author, I really thought that in English you have to put an S after that word day. What happened here?
Oh, sure. But the original Hebrew does not indicate a plurality. Do you notice that S and that cloud on the right, which is emphasized? When you consider the original Hebrew manuscripts, that S does not belong. That is an addition to the scripture. Do you remember what our consequences are for adding and subtracting to the scriptures? So did the translators translate correctly? Let's look at it. Leviticus 23:16 makes no mistake that this precise day, not days, after the 7th completed Sabbath is specifying only one highly particular 24-hour cycle. If we look at this word, we see it out of the interlinear scripture analyzer. That word is yom. It is not yomim. It does not have the plural suffix after, the plural suffix mem behind it. It is 1 24-hour period only. There is no 50 days that follow this. It is a single 24-hour period. You count 50 day. On the morrow after the 7th completed Sabbath, you count 50 day. What if the translators considered the singular Hebrew grammar effect and on the morrow after the 7th completed Sabbath, you count 50 day. Or I messed that one right back up. I'm going to go back over that and we're going to do that slide again. What happens if they considered the Hebrew and on the morrow after the 7th completed Sabbath, you count day 50. One specific yom. Can we find 50 days out of that? Or is Yahuwah being ultra specific with the Hebrew? You count one day after the 49th and it is day 50. It is Shavuot and it is Yahuwah's harvest, according to the Hebrew Torah statute. Another witness from the words of Acts, to whom also he showed himself alive after his passion by many infallible proofs, being seen of them 40 days, and speaking of the things pertaining to the kingdom of Yahuwah, and commanded them that they should not depart from Jerusalem, but wait for the promise of the Father. Let's read about this. Acts 2, 1-4. And when the day of Pentecost was fully come, wouldn't that be 50 days? Pentecost must be 50 days. So let's read this one more time. And when the 50 days, I should say, and let me paraphrase this. And when the 50 days of Pentecost was fully come, they were all in one accord in one place. And suddenly there came a sound from heaven as of a rushing mighty wind, and it filled all the house where they were sitting. That sounds like the Ruach to me, fulfilling the antitype of the type being when Moshe received the 10 commandments or the 10 Devarim on the count of 50 at Mount Sinai. Here we see at the count of 50, once again, the Ruach was poured out. Continuing on with this verse, and there appeared unto them cloven tongues like as a fire, and it sat upon each of them, and they were all filled with the Ruach HaKodesh. Once again, the Ruach is poured out on Shavuot. What does this Pentecost witness from Acts prove? Absolutely nothing. At this time, the answer will be found in the voyage of a ship, not any ordinary ship. This will be coming soon in a future study. Reason number 2 to say no to the 99-day Omer count. It does not honor the original Hebrew intent. The 99-day Pentecost count is also being taught by some lunar Sabbath feast keepers on the moon-locked calendar. Why? Because most feel barley is the wave sheaf grain. So they are seeking a summer wheat harvest for Shavuot without realizing the wheat, the fine flour for wave sheaf, is from the former year's winter seeding. As a result, there is wheat for the 50th day Shavuot Omer count. No problem. This is such an incredible slide. Yahusha as the kernel of wheat. You remember me talking about the Etzem, the wave sheaf day. At his resurrection on the next day, Yahusha fulfilled the feast of the wave sheaf. He became the first fruit. Yahusha was symbolized as the sheaf of wheat, the grain offering to be presented before Yahuwah. He was presented himself as the ultimate sacrifice before Yahuwah to be accepted as the perfect lamb of 1 year, fulfilling the 70-week ministry. Yahusha was the wheat. Can we see that by his own words? Let's read this verse from John 12, 23 to 24. And Yahusha answered them, saying, the hour is come that the Son of Man should be glorified. Verily I say unto you, except a corn of wheat fall to the ground and die, it abideth alone. But if it die, it bringeth forth much fruit. Did Yahuwah fall to the ground and die? Yes, he was crucified. Was he alone? Yes, he was in the tomb. Will he bring forth much fruit? Absolutely, beyond any shadow of a doubt. Yahusha is the wheat. He is the finest of the grain, and that's why he demands nothing less, not barley. He wants wheat. Yahusha is the etzem, the wave sheaf on the bone foundation structure, the essence and substance of our salvation. Wave sheaf day. It must be placed according to statute. Otherwise, it is on the false pagan festivals. We must pay attention to the statutes and pay attention to the Hebrew language. Yes, there is details in the Hebrew language that will guide us for those that are willing to dig in and read and study. Do your research, people. It's there if we want to study it. This wave sheaf, the Etzem day, Yahusha fulfilled it. It was a finalization, or it completed a culmination, I guess, of his 70 weeks of ministry. He was the lamb of the first year. He's the wheat. of the 49th year, and the wave sheaf of the 50th year. It is the wave sheaf day that he fulfilled on the Jubilee year. Yahusha is your wave sheaf. He is the etzem, the bone structure of our salvation. And it was done on according to the antitype, it was done according to the type and antitype of Noah's documentation when he exited the ark under command of Yahuwah. That is how we identify the authentic Yahusha HaMashiach as our Elohim. We need to understand this wave sheaf day. It must be done according to everything, according to the statutes. Reason number 3 to say no to the 99-day Omer count. It does not honor the wave sheaf or the wheat harvest. It honors a pagan celebration of the evilest kind. Reason number 4 to say no to the 99-day Omer count. Again, it removes the etzem from the wave sheaf. And that etzem is the wave sheaf day, the festival, the theme by which the wave sheaf day is observed, the first fruit. If we remove that day, we remove the base foundation of our salvation by not honoring every Torah Moedim statute. And yes, that includes the Moedim is the date, the physical date on the calendar, and the Chag is the theme by which we observe that Moedim. Both the Moedim and the Chag festival will be removed if we remove Wave Sheaf Day. Enoch, are you paying attention? Zadok, are you paying attention? Lunar calendars, are you paying attention? What is the word from Yahuwah? Revelation 18:4. Come out of her, my people. And as he told the people on Mount Sinai, be clean, be cleansed. Future studies still to be addressed. Enoch's 2 main reasons for choosing Abib 26 and the problems with this locked calendar. Yes, we're going to expose this in the future, in the near future. Enoch does have 2 main reasons for choosing Abib 26. You may not know it, but you have seen those 2 main reasons in these last 2 studies that we've presented. But we are going to dig into it and expose it clearly. Number 2, how about a 2-part surprise teaching, challenging Enoch and verifying an antitype of Yahusha? Would that interest you? Interest me, and that will be in the future. How about number 3? Remember Paul was in a ship? Didn't Charlene say that there was 256 people on that ship? Is that an interesting number? What about Paul's witness for Yahuwah's Pentecost count? Is Paul's count on a locked or unlocked calendar? Note, there are still many things for comparison and consideration. This is the end of this study today, and believe me, I greatly appreciate your time that you have given us, given your ears to us, paying attention to the hours that we have spent developing this study. And I just pray that Yahuwah blesses you greatly for this time well spent, and blesses your Shabbat, blesses your family and everyone involved. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions, here's our places where you can contact us. Or you can just ask us questions right now, question and answers right after this study. I'm going to take this down. Once again, thank you everyone for being here.
Again, applause to Yahuwah.
Thank you very much. I understood more this morning. Thank you, dear.
Ah, you're very welcome. It pays to see it over and time and again, doesn't it?
Thank you
Brother,
also.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, team. Thank
Great.
you.
Great study, Tim. Really good.
So clear, Tim. So clear. So blessed. So blessed. Thank you.
It was very good, Tim. It would be great when y'all do consider editing to break out those 2 sessions. They were so phenomenal. The one on, Noah's flood, Exodus, and connecting to Yahushua's calendar, and the other one you just completed, the 49 count versus the 99 count. That would be awesome excerpts. People could take smaller morsels of manna to absorb it. It's really incredible, and it makes so much sense. I knew where it was heading once you started it. I said it's going to end up with a golden calf, and Aaron reverted back to his pagan techniques that he had learned so many years. He was in Egypt much longer, 40 years longer than Moses. So he knew how to shape that golden calf. He knew all about the pagan worship, and he was feeling helpless, and they resort to that sun god Apis bull worship. So that was phenomenal. Just the whole session was phenomenal.
Thank you very much, Libby. I appreciate that. And I just want to give so much thanks to Charlene. She's the story behind this. She really is. I get to present it, and I'm thankful big time. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, absolutely, Charlene.
I think you did a really great job of expressing that. The first hand I saw raised up was Michelle. Michelle, question, comment?
First of all, thank you so much, Charlene and Tim. It's just so much work you put into this, and it's just so amazing, and I greatly appreciate all you've done and educated us, and it's amazing. It really is. One of my wow moments was, I know more than these commentators. I thought that was really something that, whoa, no, that commentator's wrong, and that commentator's wrong, and wow, I even know more than the famous commentators. So just wanted to say that.
Well, that's good. Praise you. Hallelujah.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that out. That's excellent point, because we all need to realize that those people that study, if you want to study, who's going to show it to you? He really is. And these people, they didn't study, they don't have a clue what they're talking about. And yet people just look at them and they lap it all up. Thank you for bringing that out, Michelle.
Okay. We have another question with is a phone number ending in 6895. 6895.
Well, that must be Dana, 6896.
What's that?
6896. Yeah, Tim.
Yeah, 6896.
Yeah, that's me, Mario.
Okay.
Tim, I'm exhausted. You just wore me out. I can't wait till tomorrow to review. I'm going to have to look at this one several times. But I got 3 things I wrote down in my notes. I noticed that during the fall of the manna, that there was no Day of Atonement mentioned whatsoever. That the manna did not fall on the day before the Day of Atonement, so they had food to eat on the Day of Atonement, knocking that theory completely out in left orbit. The second one was when you were showing the photocopy of Noah on the 27th day of I think it was, correct me if I'm wrong or if I'm right, but you showed the photocopy of Noah's account leaving the ark on the 40th day, which was the 27th, which was a Wednesday crucifixion year. Is that correct? Okay.
Yes, Dana, the 27th day of the second month of Noah's second year aligns with the 40th day of the Omer count in Yahushua's second year. You're right. Got
it. Okay. And the comment that I need to hear again was that and I don't know if I'm wrong or if I misunderstood it, but Tim said that that's when Yahushua left the earth. And how can Yahushua leave the earth when that was the day that he died on the stake? I just wasn't, it kind of messed me up. Or maybe I didn't hear it right.
the day that he left the earth, that was his ascension 40 days after his crucifixion. That's the date that lines up with Noah. 40 days after the crucifixion.
Oh, Pentecost. You're talking
Almost Pentecost.
Almost.
Got it.
But
Okay.
the point is, why did Yahuwah be so precise about recording that date when Noah left the ark? Why that precision? Because that's a pattern, that's a Kodesh pattern, that when we come up to the second year of Yahusha's ministry, when he was resurrected, he stayed there for 40 days, and that is the exact pattern. He must fulfill that pattern. Noah was a type. Yahusha was the antitype of that date. And when that is fulfilled, that's just another installation so that we know that we have the right calendar and the right Mashiach.
Yeah.
Oh, most definitely.
You know,
And I just wanted to, just a second, I wanted to make a correction here. It's the 40th day of the Omer count, not the 40th day from the crucifixion. It's 40th day from the wave sheep, not the crucifixion, okay? Just so that we're clear.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know,
Okay, thank you. More will be revealed. Thank you so much, Tim.
you know, when Yahusha said, stay here, wait here until the power of the Ruach comes upon you there, you know, so 10 days later was a day of Pentecost. You know, I'm wondering, because of what was brought up there with Noah, if maybe 10 days later wasn't the covenant of the rainbow. You know, I mean, that could even fit there. You know,
That's a very interesting thought.
That's
a really good thought, Mario.
Just a thought. It just kind of like hit my head there. Okay, we have Kevin and Niebling, and then April.
Hey, thanks a lot. That was a wonderful presentation.
Mm-hmm.
I was so excited listening to it because I love how when you were reading, Tim, you would emphasize like unto. So those were the words that I would look up. Like, this guy is saying this. I'm going to this word like, they got it all wrong. You know, look at this. And then when you brought out the 99 count to the golden calf. Now the lunar guys who I've battled with, they have it on the always. Well, first it was always, you know, can't be any other day than the 29th day of the 4th month. Well, except this year, except this year, it's the first day of the 5th month. But they also say that Shavuot is a 3-day festival. It's a 3-day festival. So it'll either start on the 29th or it'll the 5th month, still a 3-day festival. It just doesn't make any sense. And whenever I realize that, I mean, I just want you to know this, everybody who's listening, they are sincere when they'll tell you, Aaron knew it was a festival. Aaron knew it was Shavuot. And he declared it to the people. Aaron knew it. So that is our proof. It's not the only proof they try to use. It's just one of their twists of scripture that they use. But they are so totally just deceived. That's the only word, just deceived by it. And whenever I realized that, like, I was battling with them hard. I mean, I first went in with questions, and then they started taking shots. So I turned around and gave them some swipes, some shots, and I bit at them, and they were biting me, and, you know, all over the place. It was just this crazy, bloody battle, and it wasn't cool. But whenever I realized that they were saying that about the golden calf day, they literally say it. I mean, I didn't even want to be right. I was like, no way. Please, Yahuwah, let me be wrong about this, because I was so in lament. I was afraid. I mean, I felt this fear. I was like, I cannot believe that they're saying this, and I wept a little bit, just like you did, Tim. A little bit. So,
when someone tries to take the Mashiach from you, it's a weeping condition.
Yes, and I think that
go ahead, sorry.
They forgot to read that verse where Aaron said, these are your gods, not just singular, it was plural, so they missed that verse completely.
Okay, it was April and then Stacy.
I was just wondering, since we have two applications here, the third one should be as precise. And so the early harvest of wheat, does it apply to the final harvest of wheat? And does it have anything to do with Revelation 11, verse 12, where the language seems to be the same, and they heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, come up hither, and they ascended up to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them. Is there any application there? Do you know yet so far?
I do believe that there is April, and I don't want to let the cat out of the bag tonight, but I will
Okay.
talk to you about it.
So does Pentecost and the Ascension, does it apply to the future that we have?
Past, present,
Don't know
and
yet.
future.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks.
past, present, and future. That would be my take on that.
I would think that there's something to do with, I think she's talking about the first fruits as the bride near at the end, and there probably is something, I don't know, because Yahusha told his disciples to stay gathered together until the Ruach came. And so it could be that Yahuwah assembles his 144,000 somewhere in this earth and puts them together for those 10 days to get up to Shavuot, where they are actually in unity, and it could be that's where they get their job description. I don't know. But I do think there's lots of clues because of the patterns in Scripture.
Amen.
So,
Amen.
Well, I've counted from Pentecost to Day of Tabernacle, and it's exactly, according to our covenant calendar, is 490 days. So
wow.
there's something in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.